Rain had just stopped falling, leaving the city wrapped in a quiet shimmer. The streets were slick, the lamps reflected in every puddle, and the air carried the faint scent of wet asphalt. A young woman stood under a broken streetlight, her hands clutching a soaked piece of paper that once looked like hope. Her name was Emma Carter, and the paper was a job application that had been rejected 3 times that week. She had been walking for hours, from one building to another, smiling through exhaustion, pretending she was fine when she wasn't. Her rent was overdue, her phone was about to be disconnected, and she had $5 left in her wallet. The city felt too big, too cold, and too indifferent to care whether she survived another day. As she crossed the empty street, headlights cut through the fog. A black car slowed to a stop beside her, its engine humming low, its tinted window rolling down. Inside sat a man with a voice that sounded more like a command than a request. "Get in the car," he said. For a moment, Emma froze. She looked around, her heartbeat quickening, unsure if this was danger or salvation. The man didn't repeat himself. He simply reached over, unlocked the door, and waited. Something about the calm in his voice, the control in his tone, made her step closer. She saw his eyes through the dim light, sharp, steady, and oddly familiar. Against every instinct, she opened the door and slid inside. The car moved smoothly through the rain, its silence louder than the storm outside. Emma held her breath, staring out the window. She could feel his presence, the quiet strength in the man sitting next to her. Finally she whispered, "Do I know you?" He didn't answer at first. His hands gripped the steering wheel, his eyes fixed on the road. After a long pause, he said, "You are being followed." His tone was steady, almost emotionless. She turned to look out the back window and froze. 2 dark figures stood near the corner where she had been just moments ago, watching the street. A chill ran down her spine. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. The man glanced at her and replied, "Someone who couldn't just drive away." She noticed the subtle details now, his tailored suit, the clean scent of expensive cologne, the quiet authority in every movement. He looked like a man used to giving orders and being obeyed. The car soon stopped in front of a small diner glowing softly against the dark street. "You need to eat," he said simply. She hesitated but followed him inside. The warmth of the diner wrapped around her like a blanket. The man ordered coffee and food for both of them. Emma's hands trembled as she wrapped them around the cup. She hadn't eaten all day. He watched her quietly, saying nothing. His face was calm but carried something heavy beneath the surface. After a while she said softly, "Why would you help a stranger?" He looked at her for a long time before answering, "Because someone once helped me when I didn't deserve it." His eyes shifted, distant and deep with memory. They sat in silence for several minutes, until he slid a black business card across the table. "Come to this address tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock sharp." She looked down and froze when she read the name embossed in gold letters, Rhodes Enterprises. She looked up in disbelief. "You're Ethan Rhodes?" He gave a faint smile. Yes, she knew that name, everyone did. Ethan Rhodes, the billionaire CEO known for his empire, his power, and his silence. No scandals, no interviews, no public life. Just quiet dominance. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why me?" He finished his coffee, stood up, and said, "Maybe it's time someone saw what you're capable of." Then he left. That night, Emma lay awake in her small apartment staring at the ceiling. She couldn't decide if this was real or a dream. The city outside buzzed with life, but for the first time in months, she felt something stirring inside her. Hope. The next morning, she put on her best clothes, even though they weren't much, and took the bus downtown. The headquarters of Rhodes Enterprises looked like it touched the clouds. Glass walls shimmered in the sun, and people in suits walked briskly through marble floors. She felt small, invisible. But when she handed the receptionist Ethan's card, the room shifted. Within minutes, she was escorted to the top floor. Ethan was standing by the window overlooking the skyline. He turned when she entered, his expression unreadable. "You came," he said. She nodded, her heart pounding. "Good," he added. "I could use someone who doesn't give up easily." He offered her a position as his temporary assistant. Nothing glamorous, but steady work with good pay. It felt like a miracle. She wanted to cry but held it in. "Thank you," she whispered. He only nodded. The days that followed changed her life. Ethan was demanding but fair, distant yet strangely considerate. He worked long hours, barely slept, and spoke little unless necessary. But Emma began to see glimpses of the man behind the title, the one who stopped his car for a stranger in the rain. He avoided cameras, hated crowds, and kept a photo on his desk of a woman and a young boy. One evening, while organizing papers, she asked quietly, "Your family?" He paused, his expression tightening. "My mother and brother," he said. "They died when I was 17. Car crash. I was there too." The room felt suddenly heavy. "Someone pulled me out before the car exploded," he continued. "A stranger. I never found out who it was. I've spent my life trying to be that person for someone else." Emma couldn't speak. She understood him then. Not the businessman, but the man haunted by what he had lost and saved by kindness. Over time, their bond grew in silence. They shared late nights, quiet coffee breaks, and unspoken gratitude. She found strength in his calm, and he found peace in her resilience. They were two broken souls learning to breathe again, but life had one more test waiting. One rainy evening, after a long meeting, they were driving back when a truck ran a red light and slammed into their car. The world turned into noise and glass. Emma's head hit the window, pain shooting through her skull. The car spun, crashed against a barrier, and stopped. When she opened her eyes, Ethan was pulling her out of the wreckage, blood running down his arm, his voice shaking but firm. "You're safe," he said, holding her close until sirens wailed in the distance. She woke up in a hospital bed hours later. Ethan was there, his arm bandaged, exhaustion in his face. "You could have died," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "So could you. I wasn't going to let that happen." Tears blurred her vision. "You saved me again." He reached over, gently brushed her hair back, and said, "Maybe you're the one saving me." After that night, something changed. Emma realized that the man everyone called the silent CEO wasn't silent at all. He just spoke through actions, through compassion, through the quiet strength of someone who had already lost everything once. She went back to work weeks later, stronger and surer of herself. People in the office looked at her differently now. They whispered stories about how the billionaire had risked his life for his assistant. Ethan ignored the rumors, as he always did, but there was warmth in his eyes whenever he looked at her. Together, they began building something bigger than the company. A foundation to help women who had lost everything, to give them jobs, education, and shelter. They called it the Carter Initiative. For Emma, it was a way to give back. For Ethan, it was redemption. The world saw a powerful businessman funding charity, but Emma knew it was more than that. It was his way of healing the boy who had once watched his world burn. One evening, they stood on the office balcony, the city glowing beneath them. Emma said softly, "You've spent your life saving others, Ethan. Who saves you?" He didn't answer for a long time. Then he turned to her and said quietly, "Maybe you just did." The words stayed with her long after he walked away. Years later, Emma became the director of the foundation. She watched lives transform the way hers once had. She saw women find their voices again, families rebuilt, hope reborn. And every time someone asked her how it all started, she would smile and say, "One rainy night a stranger told me to get in the car." The rain returned that anniversary evening. Emma went back to the same diner where it all began. She sat by the window, watching the raindrops race down the glass, the city lights blurring in the distance. She could almost hear his voice again, steady, calm, protective. She whispered to herself, "Get in the car." Who knew those words would change everything? She smiled through her tears, knowing that kindness always finds its way back. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness still exists, please like, share, and subscribe, so that more people can believe in second chances. And before you go, leave a comment below with the words, "Kindness always returns," because sometimes one act of compassion can rewrite an entire life.